Hey guys, real quick, just wanted to touch base. I wasn't originally going to upload this section of the stream to the channel as a separate segment, but what I decided to do was I actually really liked it because I was thinking about actually going back over this, and it actually saves me the time of doing that. The part you're about to watch is actually sort of mid-conversation, and I sort of segue into the discussion of super straight again. And I bring up another argument against them in which I think is the core of why this should be ignored and completely at this point disengaged from. I'm bringing it up again not because I want to give these people a platform, but more because I feel like there were some misunderstandings in my discussion of my arguments. I had talked about the idea of them not really being a marginalized group. I talk about them not really being a minority because there's not really a way to track who's choosing to be with trans people or not. And so I think that there's also a thing to be said here. So I wanted to give you that because I also think that this segment also talks about one of my goals for the channel, and that is critical thinking. So please enjoy. I would say that every single video he posts right now gets a flagged comment about either someone trying to, I think, do a weird porn link or with the super straight videos, we got a lot of pushback on those. The transphobes out there were really upset about that. So yeah. One note on that, by the way, this isn't a segment, but I will say this is just a side note. As far as like the super straight argument, I see this reframe going on with these assholes, and like what they're doing is essentially saying, why does my sexual preference not matter? How can you be bigoted? And again, I've made the argument from the perspective of them not being particularly marginalized. I've also talked about them not really being a minority, so they're not like a disproportionate power group, right? But what I would say is that it goes a little bit further than that. If you watch the original TikTok from the guy that started this, and I want to be really clear, I am not condoning the harassment or shit he's gotten for that. Do I think he's a transphobe? Abso-fucking-lutely. And the reason I say that is if you look at the original TikTok, before all of the stuff, 4chan grabbing a hold of it and all the other crazy shit, essentially what it is that he says very clearly in his argument is that, if trans women are women, well, I don't see that as a woman, right? Like he wants to date a born woman, right? What he calls a female, right? He talks about specifically, that's not a woman to me. That's the exact language he uses. And the issue is, at least from my perspective, is this is utterly transphobic. I'm sorry, it just is. It starts from the premise as being, because you don't believe my identity, you don't want to date me. And the thing is, first off, I'm not really interested in guys, so that's a thing. But even then, just like a hypothetical of it, it gets into a really weird place because, like, to some degree, this isn't like any other identity. This is why the super straight thing is so stupid, is because what it essentially does is it conflates itself with being gay or being lesbian or being bi. And the thing is all of those are intuitive sexual attractions to a particular group or groups of people that seem to exist a priori of any socialization, right? These just seem born into the person for whatever reason. And we can make the argument that those attractions are not based on a rejection of anyone's identity. What it's or at least, yeah, their identity. It's that they're actually what they're rejecting is, I respect these people's identity. I'm just not attracted to that person of that gender, right? So if you're a lesbian, you might date transbians, you might date cis lesbians, you might date bi girls, but regardless, you're not really going to be probably dating men. And so, well, yes, there is a form of rejection in the sense that I'm not attracted to this type of person. It doesn't start from this premise of sort of invalidating that person's identity. It's not based on shutting that down. And I just want to make that clear, is that's one of the reasons why I came down on this so hard, and why a lot of these arguments that we just ended up deleting just didn't show up on the channel, is because me and Zena looked at them and went, well, half of these are abusive and it's not going to get approved. But the other reason is because these comments don't really in any kind of meaningful way address the point. They don't really actually get to the heart of what's going on. These guys can say over and over again that this is a legitimate sexual orientation and that they want to be seen in a particular way. But the reality of the fact is that like that's just not the case. So I just wanted to kind of double down on that a little bit because I think it's really important to like look at that stuff and understand that stuff because one thing I'm a big fan of and something I've been trying to do for the last couple of years is I really enjoy critical thinking. I think it makes me better at arguing. I think it makes me clearer about how I communicate. And so I try to be kind of on my game or in some ways on my toes as far as like how to do that. And so part of the thing that I'm sort of trying to do here is I want to be able to give that to you guys as well, because you folks out there, one of the things I see is people get really, they get bothered or they get, kind of uncomfortable or they get whatever with, something posted online or, for example, like with the trans people, like why were trans people so bothered by the super straight nonsense? Well, because it starts from the premise of denying our identities. It's factually incorrect in its framing. So just wanted to kind of think about that for a minute.